Hello everyone, welcome back to Just Invest Today, and today we're talking about the new 13Fs that came out this week. There's so much to talk about. There's so many stock buys and sells from your favorite investors like Warren Buffett, Bill Ackman, Lee Lu. We got Mohnish Pabrai. We have everyone to talk about. This is going to be a crazy video. I want to know, guys, what are you buying in the stock market? Are you a net buyer or a seller? Guys, in my opinion, you should be a net buyer in this market. I feel like there's a lot of opportunities to find, to look at, to even dig in if you have to. So we're going to get into this video and we're going to look at some buys and sells that a lot of these super investors had for this year. So we have to start with Warren Buffett, the godfather of investing, when we're talking about 13F filings. A lot of these buys I'm really enjoying. HP, Occidental, Apple, Bank of America. The fact that he's still buying Bank of America at these prices just goes to show you that he is very comfortable in the banking sector when it comes to Bank of America, because look, he sold US Bancorp and Bank of New York. He sold 100% out of it. So he thinks that these two stocks are kind of doing a little bit more risky business, because during his whole annual meeting, he talks about how there's more risk in the banking sector due to these rates and how bankers are trying to get more profit, etc., etc. So the fact that he's keeping Bank of America and even adding to it, that just goes to show you where his head's at. And Bank of America is probably going to be a good buy at these prices. Back in 2018, it was $30. Even in 2020, it was around $21. That's with the whole crisis. So that just goes to show you that Bank of America is probably still very cheap at these prices, selling for an APE 3% dividend yield. He's still buying Markel. He's buying Citigroup too. So he has confidence in some banks. So looking at the fact that he bought Citigroup and Bank of America gets me very, very interested, because the banking sector took this huge fall. When people throw the baby with the bathwater, they throw out everything. They don't care if the loan book is growing, if the revenue is growing, the net income, it doesn't matter. They are afraid that they're going to run out. So I think Bank of America is probably a good buy or a good company to look at. Citigroup as well. Even Capital One Financial, look into it, see what these companies are doing. He's still selling down Activision Blizzard, which is kind of surprising because I thought they were going to get approval, but they're kind of having trouble right now. He sold down of Ally Financial, Amazon, and Taiwan Semiconductor. He finally sold everything. Man, I still think this was a bad play on his part. Maybe I'm wrong, but who knows? Because like when you really think about it, like Apple is such a big part of his portfolio. You get a lot of revenue from China. 95% of the production is still in China. So I know Apple trying to diversify their manufacturing to India and like Vietnam or other places, but still, how fast can you do that when 95% of the phones are still being manufactured in China? So any hit to China, Apple is gonna get crushed. 90% of the chips that Apple is using are from TSM. So it just doesn't make sense, and he owns BYD. So I just don't believe all the China risk stuff that he talks about, because his whole portfolio is something different. Big position in Apple. He still owns BYD. That's like a 9-10% position as well. So are you telling me he's going to take that huge risk of BYD just going to zero, and even Apple probably suffering for the next 6 to 7 years to recover to probably where it's at like a $2 trillion company? It's just really weary when it comes to that whole China risk that he's talking about. But that's just my opinion. Then we have Lee Lu, and this certifies it even more that Bank of America is very undervalued. 23%? Man, oh man, that's a huge add. Lee Lu doesn't like to do a lot of activity. He has a very concentrated portfolio. So when he's adding 23%, that has to show you something. And we know all of these customers are going to Bank of America, going to JPM. So it's a good company to even look at, probably to even buy a 3% yield under a 10 PE. That's undervalued where it's usually at. So maybe it's a good look. He bought East West Bank Corp, so he's still looking at bank stocks to invest in. If you can value bank stocks, I think this is like the perfect opportunity to do it. Reduce Micron by 40%. I think he's gonna eventually sell out of Micron, because there's gonna be a lot of growing pains when it comes to Micron, because they have a oversupply of inventory. It's hard to sell right now. Even Samsung came out and said that they're gonna have to reduce their inventory, or they're not gonna have to make as many chips because they have an oversupply of memory chips. So who knows how this is gonna progress. I own Micron. I sold out of it like I think a quarter ago. Then we got Bill Ackman. Bill Ackman reduced Lowe's, Chipotle, which I'm kind of shocked because he was a big Chipotle bull, but it's only 6%. Hilton Hotels. He bought Google, man. This is kind of shocking. I wasn't really expecting him to buy like a very big tech company, but he did buy Netflix 2 or 3 quarters ago. So that's a big tech company. So he thinks Google's undervalued at this point. And I probably agree with him because I feel like YouTube ads and the Google search, like they're kind of not doing as well because people are just not advertising. So once the advertising spend picks up, Google's just gonna take off. Plus they still have cloud growth growing and becoming profitable. So Google, I still think it's probably fair value at this point, which is still pretty good because this is like a safe bet if you want like what 10%, 11% growth into the future. Mohnish Pabrai reduces Micron with Li Lu. And this is very interesting because Li Lu and Mohnish Pabrai do talk from time to time. I remember Mohnish Pabrai in an interview talks about that, how they used to go for dinners. They probably don't do that anymore. Maybe they talk on the phone, but who knows? He reduced 14% and Li Lu reduced 20%. So very similar, like kind of reducing rates. So maybe they're talking about Micron, the position, because they did buy Micron together. He added BN Brookfield Corp 8% add, which is good news because I do own BAM and BN. He has sold all of BAM, the asset management. And I think he's doing that because it's not going to be growing as fast. And he's all about compounding. So he probably sold BAM because he doesn't need the dividends. He just wants companies that are going to grow like weeds. So he sold out of that. And then we get Michael Burry, man. And Michael Burry is always doing amazing things, doing things in China. He's probably doing things in Europe. But look at this. He added JD.com. He added Alibaba. He added a lot of bank stocks because, again, I think the banking sector is very undervalued. And people are throwing the baby with the bathwater. There's a lot of companies in that banking sector that you can pick up that are still growing strong, that still have good revenue growth because he did add Wells Fargo, Western Alliance Bank Corp, PacWest, and First Republic. First Republic Bank pretty much went bankrupt. So this probably wasn't a good buy, but maybe he already sold out of it and he kind of didn't lose too much on it. So what do you think about Michael Burry's portfolio? And we know that JD.com and Baba are super undervalued. I think in the next 4 to 5 years, he's still going to probably hold these companies. He's not going to sell out until it reach intrinsic value. And I think intrinsic value for JD.com is around at least $70, $80, $90. Alibaba, it's around the $220, $240 range, especially when they're doing the split up of their company into 6 different units. That's going to hopefully, in my opinion, achieve a lot of value for the shareholders and just people who actually want to kind of put money into the company now, as they're going to be kind of split up. So you can see the cloud growth, you can see the retail business separate. And I think that's going to kind of unlock value for the companies. Then we have Guy Spier. And I always like to look at Guy Spier because it just goes to show you how patient he is, because he doesn't do any buying or selling. He just holds these companies for the long term. And that was one of the biggest mistakes Mohnish Pabrai always talks about, how people just don't want to hold these strong companies. They sell out. If you sold out of Walmart during the whole Nifty 50, that was a mistake. He sold out of Ferrari. That was a mistake. He sold out a lot of companies that if he held till now, he would be like 10x, 20, 30x. So guys, what do you think about all these 13Fs that came out? Guy Spier, Li Lu, Warren Buffett, Bill Ackman. Like this video and subscribe to my channel.